Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Anime Dreams, your destination for imaginative storytelling and immersive anime fanfics. Today, we continue with part 2 of our ongoing series, What If Naruko Was Guided by the Foxes of Destiny? Before we begin, please note, this content is created purely for entertainment and discussion. I do not own any of the anime footage featured in this video. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, let's dive into the story. After enduring what she considered an unnecessary final checkup at the hospital before being discharged, Naruko and Hana made their way toward the Inuzuka compound, located on the village outskirts. The air was calm, and Naruko, ever cheerful, filled the silence between them with energetic chatter. And that's why I'll never trust a ninja cat. I mean, they already look like they're planning something mysterious. Better not give them a reason to act on it. As Naruko concluded her spirited monologue about the dubious trustworthiness of ninja felines, they arrived at the Inuzuka compound. Its gates stood wide open in welcome. As they passed through, Naruko noticed quiet murmurs among her newly extended family. Her years in the village had made her sensitive to such things, but this time, what she heard was different: astonishment, admiration, and something she couldn't quite define. Her female relatives would glance at her and then look away, cheeks slightly flushed, while her male cousins and uncles met her gaze with inquisitive looks, as if trying to figure something important out. Her observations were cut short as Tsume, the clan matriarch, approached with purposeful strides. In her hand, she carried a distinguished scroll, dark blue with crimson markings, almost as if something had gently brushed across it with painted claws. "Ah, Naruko, it's good to see you on your feet again. How's your arm, little pup?" Tsume bent slightly to Naruko's level, her tone warm and curious. "I'm feeling much better. The doctor said I'm healing fast, something about cell division and my body being super quick to recover. I didn't really understand it all, but I guess it means I'm recovering really well." Tsume smiled kindly at Naruko. Then shifted into a stern, motherly expression as she gave her a light bop on the head. "Ow. You silly pup. That was far too reckless. Many experienced shinobi have been injured attempting something similar. You scared everyone with that stunt." Her voice was firm but filled with concern. She pulled Naruko into a hug, gently resting her hand on Naruko's back. "We just started getting to know you, and already you're making our hearts stop. Be more careful, alright?" Naruko hugged her back tightly, beaming. "Don't worry, Oba-chan. I just found out what it's like to have a family. I'm not letting go of that anytime soon." Anyone present that day would swear, strictly out of respect for Tsume, of course, that she did not shed a tear. "You sweet troublemaker. Let's head inside. We've got to talk about something important now, thanks to your enthusiastic actions." And with that, Tsume guided them toward the clan's main house. Once inside, Tsume asked Hana and Kiba to wait in their rooms until called. She then led Naruko through the winding halls of the head's house, finally stopping in front of a grand, dark wooden door bearing the Inuzuka crest, a deep red metal emblem etched with patterns resembling ripples, though upon closer inspection, they appeared to be fine engravings rather than imperfections. Inside was a large room lined with bookshelves and dominated by a sturdy wooden desk. A plush sleeping cushion lay to one side, where Kuromaru, the family's loyal companion, rested peacefully. "You like it in here, Naruko? You'd better, because after what you did, this is where you'll be spending a lot more time." Tsume gestured for Naruko to sit in the chair opposite hers before taking her place behind the desk. Naruko tilted her head. "What do you mean? What did I do now? Is this about what the villagers say?" Her voice was soft, touched with a bit of sadness. Tsume sighed, her expression softening. "No, Naruko. The villagers misunderstand things they don't try to understand. What they say has nothing to do with the truth, and you've faced it all with strength most adults don't have. That, to me, is something to be proud of." Naruko brightened slightly at those words. "What you did was something much more profound. You completed a sacred trial, something our clan founder created generations ago. Many have tried. None succeeded. Until you." Naruko's eyes widened. "Wait, why would anyone want to go through that trial? It was really overwhelming." "They tried because of what it means. Passing it grants you something precious." Tsume picked up the scroll from earlier and held it carefully. "Our first clan head left behind this legacy. Whoever could awaken the seal upon this scroll would be acknowledged as someone of true strength, destined to help lead the future of our clan." Naruko tilted her head. "So, what happens now? Do I get a cool title or something?" Tsume chuckled, though there was a bit of hesitation in her voice. Not quite. The tradition says that the one who awakens the founder's legacy shall be joined with the clan's leadership, to help continue the family line and strengthen our bonds. Naruko's expression turned confused. So, you have to adopt me again? Or, I marry into the family? That's a little confusing, Oba-chan. Sume cleared her throat and looked somewhat awkward. It's symbolic. But since the tradition refers to uniting two powerful lineages, the choice would traditionally fall to either the current head or the heir. Which means, either me or Hana. Just then, Kuromaru padded off quietly to fetch Hana. Sume handed Naruko the scroll. These are the Founder's Claws. Their power lies sealed inside here. Hazi Nuzuka, our clan's founder, used them in his greatest feats. Naruko opened the scroll. She could surprisingly read some of the ancient writing. What's a dimension? It says something about storing energy in one. Before Tsume could explain, Naruko's hand brushed the seal, and a sudden rush of energy erupted. The gauntlets, glowing with shades of purple and blue, materialized in front of her. Drawn in by curiosity, Naruko reached out, and as her hand touched them, she felt a strange sensation, something pulling on her energy, but in a way that slowly transformed into something warm and welcoming. Suddenly, Hana and Kuromaru burst into the room, startled by the energy release. Ka-san, what was that? We felt the chakra from the other side of the house. It's all right, Hana. Just Naruko. Apparently already capable of using chakra. I wasn't aware of that. Sume turned to Naruko. How did you unlock your chakra so early? Usually, it happens during formal training. Naruko blinked. Chakra? Is that the warm fuzzy feeling that the claws were trying to take from me? I thought it was just energy. Sume looked stunned, again. This may become a habit with you, she muttered. She reached out to touch the gauntlets, but the moment she did, some of her energy drained into them. Then, to everyone's surprise, the claws let out a comical little burp and began crawling toward Naruko like a mechanical pet. With a snort-like sigh, they curled into her lap and seemed to fall asleep. Naruko burst into laughter. They're like ninja puppies. Sume and Hana stared, wide-eyed, clearly not expecting the ancient weapon to act like a sleepy companion. Once the moment settled, Hana cleared her throat. You called me, Ka-san? Yes, have a seat, Sume replied. As you know, I've been preparing you to succeed me as clan head. It's time to begin fulfilling the responsibilities that come with that role. She looked Hana in the eyes, her tone now calm but serious. Together, the two of you represent a future where strength and heart combine. The founder's legacy has awakened in Naruko, and you, as heir, will walk beside her as the next generation of this family takes root, in friendship, in partnership, and in shared leadership. Upon hearing her mother's announcement, Hana's eyes widened in surprise, quickly followed by a flush of embarrassment that spread across her face. Mom! You've got to be joking. You can't expect me to just give up my future like this. Sure, Naruko got the founder's claws, and maybe she'll grow into her looks, but she's still much younger than me. Besides, I want to be able to choose who I spend my life with, not have it decided for me. Naruko, confused by the sudden tension, tilted her head curiously. She didn't fully understand what was going on, but she sensed that Hana-chan was upset, and somehow, she felt responsible. Oba-chan? What do you mean by planting special seeds? I don't see any seeds anywhere, Naruko said while glancing around the room. Are they invisible? Is that why Hana-chan is upset with me? Sume's eyes softened a little at Naruko's innocent misunderstanding. She hadn't expected to be the one explaining life's more complicated topics to her best friend's child. Well, Naruko, she began gently, when shinobi grow up, they sometimes share something special with a trusted partner, and one day, that might lead to starting a family. Because you earned the founder's claws, there's an old tradition that suggests you and Hana might eventually be matched together. Naruko's eyes widened in realization. So, when I grow up, Hana-chan might have a baby with me. But why doesn't she want to? Doesn't she like families? Sume shook her head lightly, trying to clarify the situation. It's more about choice, Naruko. If she marries you because of tradition, it means she didn't get to decide that for herself. That's why she's upset, not because of you, but because she feels like her voice wasn't heard. Naruko nodded slowly, now looking thoughtful. But her expression quickly became saddened as she turned to face the still upset Hana, who meant so much to her. So, Hana-chan has to marry me one day, and she doesn't want to? I'm really sorry, Hana-chan. I didn't mean to mess up your dreams. With that, Naruko quietly stood up and hurried out of the room, nearly tripping over the furniture in her haste. As the door slammed shut behind her, Hana blinked, finally coming out of her shock. She turned to her mother for guidance, only to meet her stern gaze. "I hope you're proud of how you handled that. You've always had a stronger influence on Naruko than you realized. Yes, this situation isn't ideal, but instead of considering how it affects her, you made her feel like she's the problem. Naruko looks up to you. She's one of the only children in the village your age who's shown real kindness to her. She was devastated when she thought she hurt you. So now, I have to go comfort a very hurt child." With those firm yet heartfelt words, Sume walked past her desk and left the room, leaving Hana frozen with guilt. Scene change. After running from Sume's office, Naruko ended up lost in the forest on the outskirts of the village. Curling up beside a tree, she hugged her knees, feeling confused and sad. Not long after, she heard a curious sound, part sniff, part snort. As she slowly lifted her head, she found herself nose to nose with an unfamiliar creature. It had thick, dark fur and looked like it weighed at least 20 times more than she did. Naruko held her breath as the creature studied her with curious, intelligent eyes. Then, surprisingly, it gently grabbed the back of her shirt in its mouth and carried her deeper into the forest. When the creature stopped walking, Naruko looked around in awe. Before her stood the entrance to a massive cave, with smaller caves scattered across the nearby stone walls. The creature released her and nudged her toward the largest cave opening. Choosing not to resist, Naruko entered slowly, only to stop short when she ran into what felt like a fuzzy wall. Not knowing what else to do, she curled up next to it, comforted by its warmth. Gradually, her worries began to melt away as sleep took hold. Meanwhile, with Tsume. As Tsume searched for Naruko, she silently scolded herself for not staying in better shape. She would have already found the girl by now if she had. What worried her most was the trail. Naruko's scent was now leading straight into known bear territory. Her heart pounded. She knew how powerful those animals were. As the trail became harder to follow, she made a vow to return with help and not stop until Naruko was safe again. Naruko awakens. Naruko woke up to the sight of a giant snout looming close to her face. "Ah!" she squeaked. She suddenly feared that the first animal had brought her here to be fed to this even bigger one. "I'm not a snack. You can tell that animal I'm not here to be food," she exclaimed while crossing her arms and shaking her head. The large creature let out a low, rumbling laugh. "A snack? Little one, you wouldn't even make a decent toothpick," the massive bear said with a kind gleam in its eyes. "Besides, I was only looking at you when you decided to throw a punch." Naruko blinked in confusion and looked down at her hands, realizing her gauntlets were still on. "Oh. These? Oh, but Chan said I passed a test and now they belong to me. But now I'm supposed to marry Hana-chan, and she's not happy about it. I didn't mean to upset her." She trailed off as she found herself explaining everything that had happened to the gentle, talking bear. The large animal listened patiently. When she was finished, he finally responded. "Little cub, those claws were a sacred gift from the bear tribe summons to a hero named Haz, who once helped us protect this forest. You're clearly the next chosen one. It's an honor, and it means our tribe will soon return to the world beyond these trees." He sat up and let out a deep call that echoed through the cave. A slightly smaller bear appeared, carrying a large scroll on its back. "Young one," the chief bear said, "for your courage and heart, I offer you our tribe's summoning contract. When you become a shinobi, return here to take the trial that will earn our trust fully." With a respectful nod, the smaller bear gently set the scroll in front of Naruko, who looked at it in wonder. Kurakuma, the first bear she met, quietly took this as the sign that her time in the primal forest was over. He lifted Naruko once more, carrying her carefully toward the forest's edge, beginning the journey home. It was a typical day for Hiruzen Sarutobi. Stacks of paperwork consumed his time, interrupted occasionally by brief mission debriefings from returning ninja teams. Everything was proceeding as usual, until Tsume Inuzuka burst through his office doors, visibly out of breath and clearly alarmed. "Naruko, pant pant, forest, pant pant, bears nearby," Tsume managed to say, trying to deliver her urgent message while catching her breath. She had sprinted all the way from the forest to the Hokage Tower, located on the opposite side of the village. "Tsume Dono, please take a moment to compose yourself and explain the situation clearly. What exactly is this about Naruko and bears?" Hiruzen asked calmly. Though her tone raised concern, he needed the full picture before taking any action. Taking a deep breath and regaining her composure, Tsume began her explanation. Naruko ran off into the forest. I tried to keep up, but she's incredibly fast, and I lost sight of her. When I finally caught up to her trail, it had mixed with the scent of a bear. After that, I couldn't track her anymore." Hiruzen's eyes narrowed with concern, and he immediately summoned his Anbu. "Sir," one of them acknowledged, appearing swiftly. "Locate Naruko and ensure her safety. She was last seen near the wild lands," Hiruzen instructed. The Anbu nodded and disappeared to carry out their mission. The Hokage stood from his chair and turned to Tsume. "Shall we see if we can locate our adventurous young one?" he said kindly, gesturing for her to follow him into a private chamber behind his office. As they entered, Tsume noted the room was sparsely decorated, save for a marble pedestal. Atop it rested a lavender crystal orb placed carefully on a velvet pillow. Hiruzen approached the orb, and soon shifting images appeared within it. The view traveled from the top of the Hokage monument, specifically the fourth Hokage's likeness, then flashed to places Naruko often visited, like Ichiraku Ramen and her former apartment building, before scanning through the forests surrounding the village. Meanwhile, Naruko was happily chatting with a recently befriended creature named Kurakuma, who was carefully carrying her out of the sacred forest. Their peaceful moment was interrupted when several ninja in animal-themed masks suddenly appeared. One of them lunged forward and gently but firmly pulled Naruko from Kurakuma's back while the others tried to form a protective circle around the bear. "The child has been secured. Maintain a perimeter until we're clear to return," said the team leader, identified by a horse-themed mask. "Understood, Umateiko." His team responded in unison. Kurakuma, confused and alarmed, seemed to misunderstand the situation. Within moments, he rose to his full, towering height and gave a powerful roar, stomping the ground and causing the earth to shift dramatically. The sudden movement sent up a wave of protective energy that startled the surrounding ninjas, though they quickly moved to safety. Realizing that Naruko was being taken away without her understanding, Kurakuma dashed forward with astonishing speed. With a swift swipe of his paw, he knocked Umateiko several feet away into the trunk of a sturdy old tree. The ninja winced but held firm, supported by his teammate wearing a sea otter-themed mask. Kurakuma then carefully positioned himself in front of Naruko, protecting her and letting out another loud but non-threatening roar, more of a warning than a challenge. Naruko, still trying to process everything, quickly stood in front of Kurakuma with her arms outstretched. Whoa, hold on, Kuro. These people are friends. I think?" she said hesitantly, turning to the masked ninja for clarification. Through clenched teeth and clear effort to remain calm despite the impact, Umateiko explained, "Hokage-sama sent us to locate you. Tsume-sama was worried something had happened, especially when your trail was mixed with signs of wildlife activity." Naruko blinked in realization. "Oh. Well, why didn't you say so sooner? Come on, Kuro, I want to introduce you to Ji-chan and Oba-chan." With that, she happily climbed back onto Kurakuma's back and motioned for him to follow the masked ninja, excited at the idea of introducing her new companion to her village leaders. Back in the viewing room, Tsume watched the scene unfold, silent yet visibly tense. She wanted nothing more than to rush to Naruko and give her a tight hug, but also desperately needed to remind her to be more careful in the future. The bear's protective behavior relieved her somewhat, showing that Naruko hadn't been in danger after all. Hiruzen and Tsume exited the chamber and headed toward the village gates to meet the returning group. As Naruko approached the gates with her new companion and the Anbu escort, she spotted Tsume and Hiruzen. Without hesitation, she leapt off of Kurakuma and sprinted toward them, her face beaming with excitement. Thump! Tsume lightly tapped the back of Naruko's head, not hard enough to hurt, but enough to catch her attention, before pulling her into a heartfelt hug. "Don't ever scare me like that again, okay? If you do, I might have to ban ramen from the compound," she said half-jokingly but with real concern in her voice. Naruko gasped. A world without ramen? That was truly unimaginable. But before she could protest, her excitement bubbled back up. Ji-chan. You won't believe what happened today. I made a new friend. Actually, I made two, but the other one was super huge and couldn't come with us because he'd probably scare everyone." Then she turned to Hiruzen, eyes shining with curiosity. "Oh yeah? What's a summoning contract?" she asked, pulling a scroll from Kurakuma's back and showing it off proudly. In all her years alive, having witnessed the trials of the shinobi world and guided many exceptional students through their journeys, even watching her own child depart to join the 12 guardian shinobi, Hiruzen Sarutobi never thought she had seen it all, until today. Just minutes earlier, her beloved surrogate granddaughter, Naruko, had emerged from one of the most treacherous regions of the forest surrounding their village. Under ordinary circumstances, this would be cause for immense relief. However, true to her unpredictable nature, Naruko had returned not only unharmed but perched proudly atop a fully grown bear, now calmly seated in Sarutobi's office like a gentle guardian. The challenge ahead? Explaining the complex subject of summoning contracts to a child who hadn't even started her formal training at the academy. Ji-chan, are you gonna tell me what this is now? Naruko asked, her sparkling blue eyes wide with curiosity as she balanced comfortably on the bear's broad back. See, Mr. Bear Chief said I had to pass a test after joining the academy, but he gave me this thing, she added, holding up a large scroll. He called it a summoning contract, whatever that means. Oh, and this big guy is Kurakuma. As if in greeting, Kurakuma lifted his head to meet Sarutobi's gaze, gave a contented huff, then lowered his head once more while keeping a calm watch on the room. Hiruzen took a deep breath and calmly evaluated the scene, Naruko radiating excitement, Kurakuma observing silently, and even Sume Inuzuka present with a rare look of quiet relief. Just as she opened her mouth to begin explaining, the doors flew open with an abrupt slam, and her former teammates entered with stern expressions. Their eyes landed on Naruko, and without understanding the situation, they immediately began to scold. Sarutobi, the girl has gone too far this time. Your leniency only encourages this behavior. The Inuzuka already hold influence, and now this child has bonded with something far too powerful. You need to act before the balance shifts beyond repair. Naruko, hearing the harsh tone, instinctively leaned closer to Kurakuma, seeking comfort. The large black bear, sensing her unease, slowly rose onto his haunches, raising his paws with a silent but firm message, protectiveness. With a single, deep growl that reverberated through the room. Ga'ow! The elders froze, their faces paling as they took in the sheer presence of the towering guardian before them. Seizing the moment, Sarutobi finally spoke. It seems Kurakuma does not appreciate you speaking harshly to his new summoner. I would recommend you leave before the situation becomes more complicated. His kind are renowned for their strength and loyalty, far more than a few guards could contain should they feel their kin threatened. Reluctantly, the former advisors turned away, clearly unsettled. This isn't over, Sarutobi. Sooner or later, you'll have to face the consequences of your choices, one muttered as they exited and shut the door behind them. With the atmosphere finally calming, Kurakuma lowered himself back down and turned toward Naruko, who had curled up in a quiet ball. Gently, the bear used his paw to pull her closer, cradling her in his lap before licking her face affectionately. Naruko squirmed slightly before releasing a bright laugh, unable to resist the ticklish affection. Soon she was giggling freely, wrapping her arms around her new companion. Once she had calmed, Naruko looked up at the elderly Hokage with worried eyes. You're not going to make me leave them, are you, Ji-chan? I'll behave, I promise. I won't run away again. Please let me stay with my family, she pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. Sarutobi, sensing the vulnerability in her voice, quickly stepped in to reassure her. No, my dear. You are not going anywhere. Those words came from fear, not from truth. They do not understand the bond you formed. But I do. Naruko smiled faintly, comforted by her grandfather's words. Now then, Sarutobi said warmly, it seems I owe you an explanation. The tension in the room dissolved as curiosity returned to Naruko's face. The wise Hokage sat beside her and began his lesson with a gentle tone. A summoning contract is a very special bond between a shinobi and a powerful animal clan. It allows both to support one another in important missions. While many summon creatures are strong, they each have unique strengths. For example, my own companions, the monkey clan, are skilled in both transformation techniques and close combat. Their leader can even transform into a powerful staff. He nodded toward the scroll now tucked between Kurakuma's paws. Your contract is rare, Naruko. Only a few shinobi ever form such bonds. These animals choose their summoners carefully. Passing their test means they trust you deeply, and that trust goes both ways. It's your responsibility now to learn from them, understand their strengths, and protect each other. Naruko's eyes widened with amazement as she glanced at the scroll, then back at Kurakuma. Sarutobi continued, you are their chosen one, Naruko. Your journey together will be filled with discovery, and I believe the village will come to understand the power of harmony over fear. Naruko beamed with pride, her earlier worry forgotten. Hugging Kurakuma once more, she whispered, I promise I'll do my best. And from that moment, the room no longer held doubt, only the quiet strength of a new bond forged in trust, curiosity, and love. Naruko stretched lazily like a contented cat, her back arching slightly as she nestled more comfortably against Kurakuma's soft fur. She tried to stay awake and listen closely to what her dear grandfather figure was saying, but the gentle pull of sleep was becoming too strong to resist. "It seems the rest of our conversation can wait for another time," the wise old Hokage said kindly. "Why don't we get you home and tucked into bed? I'm sure your little ones have missed you dearly during your time away." With a warm smile, the Hokage stood, placed his hat gently on the desk, and walked over to assist his beloved surrogate granddaughter. Helping her onto Kurakuma's back, he began to lead the gentle bear down from the Hokage tower, heading toward the peaceful clan district. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to the fanfic. Your presence and support mean more than words can express. May your heart stay inspired and your imaginations forever soar. With all my gratitude, until next time. Love always. Anime Dreams.